Good morning, class. How are you today? So I presume that you are prepared to listen to our new topic, but before that, let us pray. Can I call this Rita to lead the prayer? Thank you. So now, let me check first the attendance. Arkeleta Michelle, Austria Eileen, Balagat Hanilin Joy, Bohols Dimeros, Borromeo Aiza, Bulawan Mary Rose. So I guess everyone's are present. So now, fasten your seatbelt as we go along to a journey to selective permeability of membranes surrounding the cells and within the cells journey. So be cautious along the way, class, because there might be questions that needs answers. And I'm sure you wouldn't like to miss additional points that I will give during the discussion. Okay, so let's start. So the objective for today's lesson is that the student will be able to learn how the structure of biological membranes influences selective permeability. So second, students will be able to compare and contrast different types of passive transport with active transport. So now, before we start to our new lesson, let us have first a review. So class, what is the lesson last meeting? Can I have a volunteer to discuss to me what have we discussed last meeting? Okay, Miss Balagat, can you share it to the class? Very good, Miss Balagat. So our topic last meeting was all about the identification and function of the cell membrane, the mitochondrion, the chloroplast, the nucleus, the nuclear pores, the ribosomes, and the DNA. So now, to start with our new lesson, we are going to play a game. Do you want to play a game, class? Okay, so the mechanics of this game is that I will show you pictures and that will serve as your clue. And what we are going to do is to guess the word. Okay? So are you ready? Those who will participate, I will give an additional points. Okay, so let's have the first picture. Do you already have the answer, class? Okay. Miss Romeo, can I hear your answer? Very good, that's right. The word is selective. So now let's proceed to second picture. What is the word, class? Guess the word and take your time. Okay, so now do you have the answer? What is the word? Yes, Miss Putoy? That's right. Again, the answer is permeability. Excellent job, class. So now, what are the words you form after playing the game? Exactly, very good, class. The word is selective permeability. And since all of you are very participative, I will give all of you class points. Okay, so for this morning, we are going to tackle all about the selective permeability of membranes surrounding the cells and within the cells. Now, can you give me some words that came after your mind when you hear the word selective permeability? Or any words or phrases that you can relate to selective permeability? Okay, Miss Bulawan? Very good. Thank you for sharing it to the class. So can we have another one? Okay, Miss Cañete. So what do you have in mind? Very good answer. So now, let's proceed to our lesson. Are you ready? Okay, very good. So are you all excited? Okay, that's right. Okay, so before anything else, let's have a bit review all about the cell membrane. So, can anyone please read what I had presented in the presentation? Okay, Miss Dixon, can you? Okay, thank you, Miss Dixon. So yes, all cells have a cell membrane. It has functions like It controls what enters and exits the cell to maintain an internal balance called homeostasis. So what does homeostasis mean? So homeostasis, class, is the ability to maintain a relatively stable internal state despite changes in the world outside. So all living organisms, from plants to puppies to animals to people, must regulate the internal environment to process energy and ultimately to survive. So the cell membrane provides protection and support for the cell. So they are the ones responsible in transporting nutrients into the cell and also transport toxic substances out of the cell. So do you understand? Okay, so let's proceed to the structure of the cell membrane. So we have here a lipid bilayer. It is a 2 layers of phospholipids. So what is a lipid bilayer, class? So a lipid bilayer, class, it is a thin layer of membrane made of 2 lipid molecules. So that's why it is called bilayer. That means 2. So these membranes are flat sheets that forms a continuous barrier around all the cells. So we have here 3 parts of the cell membrane: the phosphate head, the fatty acid tails, and proteins. Phosphate head is apolar. It is water-loving. So while fatty acid tails, it is a non-polar. So it is a reverse. The phosphate head, it is water-bearing. So you can refer to the figure I've shown in the right side. So as you can see, the polar heads on the white color, they are the ones who loves water and can be dissolved. So the ones in the red color are the fatty acid tails. So they first water, they hide from water. So number 3 is the proteins. So proteins are embedded in the cell membrane. Okay, so it is clear. Do you now understand the difference between a phosphate head to fatty acid? Can I have a volunteer to share it to the class? Okay, so let's have Miss Nairi. Very good, that's right. So next is that cell membranes have pores or holes in it. So these pores allow small particles or molecules to pass easily. So that's why it makes it selectively permeable. So this selective permeable only allows some molecules in and keep other molecules out. So a selective permeable means that membrane allows the passage of some molecules or ions and inhibits the passage of others. So that means only selected molecules is prohibited to enter the membrane. Okay, so as you can see, we have here the structure of the cell membrane. We have the outside of the cell, the inside of the cell, which is the cytoplasm, and on the left side is the lipid bilayer. So in the violet colored ones are the proteins, and the middle of it is the transport protein, the phospholipids, and the carbohydrate chains. We're going to discuss the types of cellular transport. So we have 2, namely the passive transport and the active transport. So in passive transport, cell doesn't use energy. It has 3 types, namely diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and osmosis. So in active transport, the cell does use energy. It also have 3 types: the protein pumps, endocytosis, and the exocytosis. So first, let's go into define what is a passive transport. So in passive transport, class, as I said, the cell uses no energy. It is a naturally occurring phenomenon and does not require the cell to expend energy to accomplish the movement. The molecules move randomly. So this means that randomly, it moves without specific patterns or direction. So in short, random movements to be exact. So molecules spread out from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. So bear in mind, class, that in passive transport, the movement of the molecules is from high to low concentration. So passive transport class has three types. So what are these? So first, we have the diffusion. So in diffusion, random movement of particles from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. So the movement of the particles in diffusion class is from high to an area of low concentration. So the movement of particles in diffusion continues until all molecules are evenly spaced. So this happens only when it has reached its equilibrium state. So take note that molecules in diffusion will still move around but stay spread out. So you can refer to the animations that I provided to the right side. So as you can see in the first picture, the particles are evenly spaced. In the second picture, the molecules is continually moving but are evenly spaced. So next is the facilitated diffusion. So this diffusion of specific particles through transport proteins found in the membrane. So, in transport proteins are specific. They only select only certain molecules to cross the membrane. So, in facilitated diffusion class, only selected particles can enter or cross the membrane. It can transport larger or charged molecules. So, you can see at the picture on the right side class that the difference between a diffusion by facilitated diffusion. So, in diffusion class, as you can see, it is spread out. And in facilitated diffusion class, it has a somewhat like a passage. So, only chosen particles can enter the membranes. Also, in the second picture, so as you can see, it can transport large and charged molecules. Okay, so the last type is the osmosis. So the fusion of water through a selectively permeable membrane. So in osmosis class, please refer to the figure I have shown on the right side. So the movement of the fluid across a membrane in response to differing concentrations. So, of solutes on the two sides of the membrane. So here, it is focused on the two sides dimension of the cell membrane. So also, the water moves from high to low concentration because, again, it is a type of passive transport, which is the molecules are from high to low concentration. So next, we are done with the types of the passive transport. So now we're going to the active transport and its type. So first, we're going to define what is an active transport. So in active transport class, as I said in the later discussion, the cell uses energy. It actively moves molecules to where they are needed. So the molecules here class only moves to the part which they are only needed. Movement of molecules class here is different. It is moving from low concentration to an area of high concentration. So it is a reverse on the passive transport. It is from low to high. So now let's go to discuss what are its types. So first, we have the protein pumps. So these transport proteins that require energy to do work. So this kind of protein class is capable of pumping out compounds that could pose a threat to the cell. So the example of this is the sodium-potassium pumps are important in nerve responses. So why? Because sodium-potassium pump class is one of the most significant kind of the transport protein. So, it is the protein that allows your nerves to pass electrical charges so they all can function. So, this type of movement requires energy. So, that's how protein pumps work. Endocytosis class, so it is the taking of bulky material into a cell. So taking, that means inside, getting inside. So here, it uses energy. It is called the cell eating. It forms food, vacuole, and digests food. So why forms food? Because in endocytosis class, it takes in substances from the outside of the cell by engulfing them in a vesicle. So this is how white blood cells eat bacteria. Amazing class, right? So you can refer at the pictures I had provided. So as you can see, we have here a substance and it is taken inside. So that's how it works. So now let's proceed to the exocytosis. So in exocytosis class, it forces the material out of the cell in bulk. So as you can remember, in endocytosis, it is the taking in. So now, in exocytosis, it is the taking out. So it occurs when a cell produces substances for export, such as a protein, or when the cell is getting rid of a waste product or a toxin. So this pertains to the process of moving materials from within a cell to the exterior part of the cell. So during the process, the cell changes shape, and this also requires energy. So from the word itself, class, exo means out of the cell, plus cytosis. So this is how exocytosis works. It's forcing the material out of the cell in bulk. So you can see at the figure on the right side, so it is pumping out of material in a bulk. So did you all understand the exocytosis? Okay, very good. So now, let's move on to the tonicity. So do you have any idea about tonicity? Okay, so very good. Okay, so we have here hypotonic solution. So this type of solution class has a lower concentration of solutes and a higher concentration of water than the inside of the cell. So this solution has only smaller amount of solute present in the solution, and the concentration of water is higher than the inside of the cell. So in short, low solute, higher water. So the result, water moves from the solution to inside the cell. Later on, the cell swells and bursts open. Okay, so as you can observe in the figure, the cell swells and bursts open. This is called cytolysis. Okay, so in hypotonic solution, what is the direction of water? So can I have Miss Ursavia? Okay, so that's right. Excellent, Miss Ursavia. So now let's proceed to hypertonic solution. In hypertonic solution class, the solution has a higher concentration of solutes and a lower concentration of water than the inside of the cell. So this is the reverse of the hypotonic solution. So here, it has a large amount of solute and a lower amount of water than the inside of the cell. Third class, it is high solute and low water. So what is the result? So here, the water moves from inside of the cell into the solution. So later on, the cell shrinks. This process is called plasmolysis. So you can refer to the picture shown. So as you can see, the water moves out of the cell. So later on, the cell shrinks in the last process. So did you all understand what is hypertonic solution? So can you now cite what is the direction of water? Okay, so let's have Miss Zesalet. Okay, Miss Zesalet, can I hear your thoughts? That's right, very good. You got the correct answer. Okay, so since you don't have any questions, let's go in to proceed to the last type of the tonicity, which is the isotonic. So what is an isotonic? So isotonic solution class, the concentration of solutes in the solution is equal to the concentration of solutes inside the cell. So there is an equilibrium. equal amount of solute and equal amount of water. So what will happen? So the result, the water moves equally in both directions and the cell remains in the same size. So this process is called dynamic equilibrium. So what happens to the cell again, class? Okay, very good. So how about in isotonic solution? What is the direction of water again? Okay, let's have Mr. Nal. Okay, very good, Mr. Nal. Thank you for sharing it to the class. Okay, so that concludes my discussion. So for your activity, I want you to fill in the blanks, the necessary answers in each consecutive questions, and I will call someone later to cite their answers. I will give you 3 minutes to answer this activity. Okay? You may now start. So time is up, class. Let me now hear your answers. Okay, so for number 1, the question is that blank is a solute concentration higher on the outside of the cell than on the inside of the cell. So what is the answer? Okay, Miss Hawete, what is the answer? Very good. It is hypotonic solution. So next, second question. It is a solute concentration lower on the outside of the cell than on the inside of the cell. So what is the answer? Okay. Miss Versausa, what is the answer? Very good. The answer for this question is hypotonic solution. Last, blank is a solute concentration equal on the inside and outside of the cell. So easy. What is the answer? Okay, let's have Miss Kantay. What is the answer? Okay, very good. The answer is isotonic solution. Excellent job, class. So now, for me to further understand if you really learn the topic that we have discussed today, I have here 2 questions for you to answer. But for now, for this time, it's going to be the application. You can send me your answer, class, through my Gmail account. I will send it later, okay? Okay. And now, to actually evaluate what you have learned, let's going to answer the 5 items true or false. So directions. Read a statement carefully. Place T if you think the statement is true, and place F otherwise if you think the statement is false. So you have all the time to answer it, and God bless. Are you all done, class? Okay, that's it. It's going to make this work done. Okay, so for number 1, what is the answer? Okay, very good. The answer for number 1 is false because selective permeables allow some molecules in and keep other molecules out, not in and out. For number 2, it states that all cells have a cell membrane. Is it true or false? Yes, that's right. It is true. So for number 3, in hypertonic, the solution has a lower concentration of solutes and a higher concentration of water than inside of the cell. So what is the answer, class? Yes, very good. It is false. So why? Because the answer of it is hypotonic solution. So for number 4, in isotonic solution, the concentration of solutes in the solution is equal to the concentration of solutes inside the cell. So what do you think, class, is the answer? Very good. The answer is true. So the last one. So passive transport, the cell uses energy molecules and move randomly. So it is true or false? Very good. The answer is false because the right one is the active transport. It is the one who uses energy. Okay, congrats for a job well done. Let's call it a day. And before I'm going to leave you, let me share to you a quote from the Lens Share, which states, "Don't limit your challenges. Instead, challenge your limits." That's all, everyone. Thank you for listening and have a good day.